All right, Latisha, what I like to start off with is your backstory, because now you're in a role of supporting franchisees, which we'll get into. But how do you even get to the point where you are today? What's your backstory on how you got to this point?
Yeah. So my backstory is I've been in this industry for, I'd say, 25 years now. I actually started with Children's Lighthouse back in 2002. I was a young mom, really, and just wanted to teach, and I loved children. So I was lucky to get an opportunity to start working for Children's Lighthouse. And it pretty much just went from there. I raised all three of my boys through Children's Lighthouse, if you want to say that. I worked my way up from the classrooms to being an assistant director, and then became a school director in 2007. Um, and, just worked my way up from there. I came to the franchise office back in 2018 because I really wanted to, continue to be a part of Children's Lighthouse in a different way. I wanted to be able to use all the knowledge that I've gained over all these years from all the great, people before me. So I just wanted to be able to, you know, give a lot of the information I can, be able to train, be able to help people run a successful business, if that makes sense.
So I think it gives you an interesting perspective, having one, had your children go through Children's Lighthouse, two, you working in more of an educator position, to now being in a role of supporting franchisees. Take me through a day-to-day today, and then we'll get into process on impact.
Yeah, definitely. So, a lot of what we do for the franchisees is, we play a big part in the beginning whenever they're going through that development process, and they're going through training and things like that. We're pretty much helping train and onboard them and their leadership teams, and wanting to, pretty much just get them ready to run a successful school. Once we get through that phase and they're opening, then that's where we bring on the franchise business coach. Right now we have a team of 5 franchise business coaches that I supervise and lead. And so we're there to, just help them along the way with their day-to-day business, and what they, need to do to be successful. They can reach out to us. We can provide, as much information as possible. Because we just, once again, want them to be successful. So that's kind of what we do to get them there. And, just my day to day is helping field calls, helping, field information to all the FBCs when they have questions. They're like, hey, this owner has a question about, labor and percentage, and how can they improve that? We're here to say, okay, let's talk through this. This is what our recommendations would be. This is our things they could look at within the day-to-day operations and how to fix that or overcome that. So, so a lot goes on. It's a very busy day, I can say. So
When a franchisee comes with more of a turbulent challenge, and obviously, like when you go into business ownership, you're going to have those. And part of the advantage of being a part of a franchise system is you get to lean back on the franchisor for support. The franchisor has been there, done that. Does it give you a different lens because of how you grew up in the system, that you were like, no one can say you don't know what it's like? You're like, I can tell you exactly what every role is like.
Right. And that is so true. I mean, the thing is I was in it day to day, and the great thing is I took a lot of information from, I had regional managers, I've had, CEOs, I've had presidents of companies. I've been through that. I've received a lot of good information, even growing up through doing this. So yeah, so I was in it every day. I understand the struggles to staff, or when you have several people call in one day, and how are you going to fix that? How are you going to overcome that? Because the kids are still coming, right? So it's just one of those things where I'm able to use a lot of that knowledge. And same thing, I learned some things the hard way. Everybody does, and so I can kind of talk about that. I've experienced that. Let me tell you how I've overcome that, and what you can maybe do, give them some solutions. So I think that's the easiest thing. And they'll come to me too. They'll call me and say, okay, Latisha, I know you probably experienced this before. How did you handle it? And I mean, I get those calls often. So that's always great to know that I can I can help them, in any way possible.
With all this coaching that you're doing, and it's almost like lay down on the couch and I'm gonna be your psychologist to help you get through these things. So someone that's out there looking at the business, what would you tell them to get comfortable with this idea now that you've obviously helped so many different franchisees through so many different situations?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, we know this industry very well. I want to say, we've been through everything, even, some of the most challenging times that even our company overcame those challenging times. And so I think it's just one of those things where I just tell them, look, things are going to happen. You can only control what you can control. And as long as you learn something from it and you are able to put processes or systems in place, do that. And that's the great thing about us is we have so many systems and processes in place. So it's probably been done before, so we always have a solution for it, and so that's what I tell them, and to lean on us, that's what we're here for, as a franchisor, we're here for you to lean on us and ask questions. Nothing's ever too crazy that's come across our desk or our phone, so just, lean into us and ask, and we're here to help you.
What makes a good day for you? Meaning, this feedback comes from a franchisee or X
Mhm.
happens. Can you think of what makes a good day for you?
I think to me, I take on every day as a good day. Every day is a challenge. I think I feel the most helpful when I am getting a lot of calls and questions and there's some challenges going on and we can overcome those. So to me, those are the good days. But every day is different in this industry, especially with what I do and supporting the business coaches, supporting the owners, supporting the schools, supporting all the systems that we have in place just to make it better. And I'm so thankful that I'm with a company who allows me to collaborate with others and also think outside the box and implement things that we may not have thought of and know that, hey, it's okay. We need to try this. We need to catch up. This may not be the industry standard, but I know we can do it better. So yeah, so it's just, I take every day as a challenge and I feel like every day can be a good day in the end. It just depends on what you get done in the day. So
Not that money doesn't have to be the driver of this next question. And I think
okay.
money, like the performance of a franchisee, could be financial. It doesn't have to be that. It could be a level under that. So when I want you to think of like a great franchise owner, and again, like they don't have to be number one in the system. They could be right in the middle, but they make you feel really good. What are the characteristics that you see on? It's twofold. One, that makes them really enjoyable to work with,
Hmm.
and two, if you said these are the characteristics you need to be a top performing franchisee in the system, this is what I've seen.
Yeah. And I think number one, is for someone who is open and flexible and understands that every day can be different and every day is not always going to be perfect. So I think just being understanding about that and being flexible and being humble, in each situation that they come across. Um, Also, not being a micromanager. I think that's one of our biggest things. When we micromanage, that becomes very difficult. And in this industry, a school has a school director who runs the day to day. So you're CEO of this business, and you need to be able to coach them and train them and do what they need to do to run your business successfully day to day, to where you don't have to be there every single day and micromanaging every single point of what goes on in the day. So someone who does not micromanage, who is flexible, and who is willing to put all their effort they can into the business when it's needed. Sometimes directors do need their owner to step in and be like, okay, hey, let's fix this, or how can I help you? So someone who is able to do that or recognize when they need to step in, and then just and that they are providing what the schools need, that they are following the systems that we give them and that they're providing, all the tools that are necessary to run a school. There is so much that has to be done in the day with supplies, with, ensuring the children are safe and all these things. So those are the ones that are important, who are there to say, what do you need? How can I help you? What can I provide you? Whether it's, money to buy supplies, or whether it's, something new to help with a procedure, whatever that is. So, and they're constantly just putting into their business as much as they can.
Yeah, I think sometimes in business, an owner of the business forgets
Mhm.
that the support and structure that you give to your team is how you make more money. Because
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
they get disgruntled or they feel not taken care of for whatever reason, then
Right.
they're not going to work as hard for you. And if you're and you become a multi-unit operator, you might become a little bit more of a semi-absentee owner because you can't be
Mhm.
everywhere at once. But if you behave and completely removed from the business, that also
Mhm.
can turn off your team. And I think, like, if I'm giving advice to a franchisee, and what you just said, it's your job to facilitate a local culture that obviously
Mhm.
follows the system, but keeps motivation high for those that may have not built the wealth that you have. And that's how you get people to want to
Right.
be part of something bigger, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And culture is huge, and setting that tone. And yeah, we have a lot of multi-unit owners who are very successful. And, that's the thing about our business too, is people want to work for great people, right? I mean, I've been that way throughout my whole life. I want to work for great people. I want to learn. So I tell franchisees the same thing, people will want to work for you if you are a great place to work, and you're there to support them when needed, and you're providing them what they need. So I think that that's very important.
If I'm extracting pieces of your answer too, like if
Mhm.
we're building the ideal franchisee,
Mhm.
like the reality is we just the micromanagement, the style and support, the willingness to carry the business on your back when you need to. Those are all cultural traits. It seems like if we're simplifying this, positive culture
Mhm.
should create positive outcomes and financial
Yes.
outcomes.
Yes. Yes, and that is so true. I mean, we see it every day. Some of our most successful schools are those who have a great culture. It's To me, it starts at the top. And the same thing even with us as the franchisor. It starts at the top, and we have a great culture here as well. I have great leaders that I can go to anytime, and they're there for me, and they support me, and they're there to back me up when needed. So I just feel like it starts at the top and trickles down from there. So that's what I really push and hope that the franchisees understand that.
I'm curious on a few things. You move over to corporate in 2018, which
Mhm.
means you have to battle the worst storm of our careers of 2020. And in your role, I mean,
Yes.
you're probably fielding questions at that point, especially 2020, of my whole life is crumbling because my every
Mhm.
penny is invested into this business. Oh, and I have to deal with the chaos that's going on in my personal life. And so it was this weird intersection.
Mhm.
Beyond the COVID, when we get beyond COVID, whatever that means beyond COVID, it's like business then moves so fast. So it's whenever I've talked with someone, I'd be like, "Have you had a time to even like really reflect on what you went through?" It's like, no, because I got to keep moving. Like life just keeps
Mhm.
beyond it. When you think
Mhm.
back to that moment on how powerful it was for you as a leader, what you needed to do, what were some of the things, like as you reflect backwards, what are some of the things that obviously you're proud of to being able to help navigate that storm and get to the other side?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think that was a trying time for everyone, and one that, wasn't the norm, of course. And so, the great thing about it is that we kept on track every day with every school, with every owner. We were there for them, working with them through, because it was a challenge right there. Some lost enrollment, some didn't have the enrollment that they need, the money, or the money coming in, and they had to make adjustments. the thing is we fought through that storm every day, especially even as a the franchisor. We were there for them. We were constantly having, then Zoom calls every day, like what can we do differently? How can we support them? I always laugh and say I was the expert executive order person, because I had to read every state's executive order, what we were supposed to do. Oh my gosh, it was just a trying time, but I'm so thankful we went through that, because, none of our schools closed during that time, which is amazing. And they operated every day that they could, um, and they did a great job at it. And so I think that's a true test that we have fought through storms and we'll continue to fight through those. No matter what comes our way, we do that every day. Challenges come our way every day where we have to fight through, this is going on, with legislation, or this going on locally, and what do we need to do to overcome that. So I'm very thankful we went through that, and it was a huge challenge, but we got through it.
Well, it's probably like a true test of empathy too, because you have to you almost have in as a business coach or consultant, you have to almost put your fear to the side. And so like it adds a whole nother component, because you just said I had to be an expert in understanding like what can we do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to field these calls of panic, and then at the same time you have to at a pace that is ridiculously opposite of what you were used to, you have to support the franchisee, and then you have to do
Yes.
empathy on top of it. And so like if I look at like, this is not a disappointment in franchising but like if we go back to that time on how much we were completely dedicated to franchisees winning, it was that.
Mm-hmm.
Some brands held on to, I think Children's Lighthouse has done a very nice job of holding on to some of that cultural, we're in this for our franchisees. Some brands beyond COVID forgot what that was like. And when you treat your franchisees as maybe not at that level because it's not sustainable, but you treat them with that empathy and idea of winning, then the outcomes can be tremendous. And that's probably part of why Children's Lighthouse has had a strong recovery from COVID, is because of some of the things that you and your team did during that time.
Yeah, and empathy, and then I'm going to be honest. I've been with this company for a long time, and from the beginning, it always felt like a family. Even though they weren't your immediate family, it just felt very family oriented. They've always looked out for what's best. Even when we were corporate schools, what's best for the corporate schools, same thing in the franchising. What's best for the franchisee is really a huge thing we talk about here. We always want to do what's best for them. We always want to be there to support them and help them through those hurdles. But yeah, what's going to be best for them is very important. And we think about that in everything we do, and especially me. Is this going to work in the schools, especially being in the schools previously? I know, like, okay, will this work? Will this take up too much time? All of those things. So yeah, I think it's very important.
It keeps the gel of the staff together too, which like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's complex. If you look at how does a franchise grow, it's going to be it's culture and business model, and culture leads to business model. I've used this example a few times, but very early on in my franchise career, I was looking at a restaurant brand that I was very excited for. As like a 22-year-old in franchise, I was like, "Ooh, I want to own a restaurant."
Yeah.
And so I had this group that we were looking at it, and Hurricane Katrina hit, and there was a 9-store franchise operator in New Orleans. Every store done. It got destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And the franchisor didn't even know that I was interested as a franchise buyer. I said to the head of sales, I said, "Boy, what are you going to do for your 9-unit franchisee?" He goes, "That's the beauty of franchising. We don't have to do anything. That's his loss, not ours." And it stuck with me because I do think some brands probably had that mentality. Not brands. Some leaders had that mentality going into COVID, but then their staffs dissipate because, like, what is the mission that we're really believing in? Is it just to make the rich get richer? Versus how do we have impact across humans in every different area? And the reason I bring that story up is what I'm hearing from you. You said I felt supported from the top. I felt like my voice mattered. And that's part of, like, if I'm a buyer out there, I'm looking for these nuggets, these conversations, because that culture will continue to support me as I go through an unpredictable world of business ownership. And I love that you shared that with me as the point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's who we are. And that's what I've been taught, from the beginning. So that's the person I am. That's the leadership style I use a lot. Is I'm open to listening, especially to the business coaches who are out in the field every day, so they're hearing it, seeing it, and I'm always there to support them and know that, hey, whatever we have to do, we can always listen and try to figure it out. So
I want to close with this. If you and I brought up every franchise website for sales, I would say as close to 100% would say we have superior support. Now, the reality is not everybody could have superior support. There is one brand in this world that is number one and one brand that is at the bottom.
Yeah.
For you guys, like, all the things we've talked about is putting realities against what support is. Let's say there's a candidate out there and they're like, I'm looking at you versus another franchise. And the question is, how do you guys support differently or better in your perspective than someone else? How would you answer that question?
Support differently? Yeah, I mean, I feel like we do offer the most support as far as, our level and what we can offer, but our business coaches have fewer schools than I've heard of in the industry overall, whether the big brands, a lot of consulting, you may have multiple locations that you oversee. So I feel like we do really look at that. And the great thing is our president has allowed us to have the support we need to say, okay, if this business coach only has to have 15 schools, and that's what we do, so we are able to offer more support because we are willing to do what it takes to say, okay, if we need to bring on another person, let's do that. If we're lacking in this area, we need to bring on someone else to help us. Let's do that. So I feel like that's just the great thing about us is that we have the ability to support them in whatever way they need because we are willing to, put as many people in place as we need to help with that. So.
I mean, if I oversimplify your answer, the support team has support, and that is probably a good question that franchisees should try to uncover is, does the people that support me genuinely feel supported? If the answer is yes, and I feel comfortable with that, then I know that they're going to be in the same boat when it comes to helping me navigate the process of becoming a successful business owner. So,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Latisha, this was awesome. I overuse the statement, you bet on the jockey, not on the horse. Meaning, when you see good human beings, it gives you an insight. And I'm grateful you shared some of your story with us today.
Yes, I'm so excited to do this. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great. For Latisha, I'm Nick. This was another episode of Meet the Franchise. Take care.